Welcome to WeAreSC. Welcome to the first five things of the 2023 football season. This is Erik McKinney, joined by Greg Katz and Marc Kulkin. We're here at the USC spring game. 2023 spring game just finished. As always, as Lincoln Riley promises at these things with his scoring system, a nail biter till the end. Was not finished until the final play. Jacoby Covington comes away with an interception to give this a win for the defense. The USC offense won last year's version, so defense a little bit of a comeback here for this one. So as always, five things. We're going to go with our player of the game, play of the game, our expectation coming into this that was met, the surprise from this one, and then our biggest takeaway. So first thing is our player of the game. Greg, I'm going to go to you for your player of the game for this one.
Well, it was short and sweet, but I'm going with Caleb Williams. I mean, they went downfield like there wasn't a defense there, and I'm not blaming the defense on this one, but it was really like, whoa, he made it like it was a backyard game. So there were some other great highlights, but to me, it's not how long it was what it was, and he was on fire.
Marc, your player of the game.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the other side of the ball. You mentioned it earlier. Jacoby Covington, couple of interceptions. He had to battle and politic for that first one, and Lincoln Riley talked about it after the game, how he reluctantly gave it to the defense. But I want to I'm going to mention one other name. It's not really because he put up a lot of stats, but because of what I saw in Visions of the Future. Marion Peterson at running back, that is Lendale White. And everybody, I don't know if you saw him, but when he got in the hole, he had those little pitter-patter feet, and then he just burst through the hole. I was having flashbacks, so something to look forward to.
Well, that's a good flashback, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Quentin Joyner stood out to me as a guy that I thought was tremendous in this one. I'm going to go with Solomon Tuliaupupu, though, as a player of the game. He had two really solid tackles. There were turnovers and all this stuff that wasn't him. But I'm trying to look down, and I feel like we've got to mention him because Lincoln Riley has talked all spring about how this defensive line and defensive front really looks so different than what it looked like last year. And I think that guys like that is a big reason why. Yes, Jack Sullivan, Anthony Lucas, Keon Bars, those guys coming in, huge reasons. But the guys who came back, who are going to stay, who are going to be big time contributors to this group, I think he's one of those. And I think we saw, okay, this is what he could look like on that defensive line. And so for me, with what USC needs, what they need to get contributions from those kind of players, his play here was really good to me, and I think worthy of one of those player of the game type considerations. Absolutely. We're going to go to play of the game now. And Marc, I'm going to start with you on this one, your play of the game here.
There's actually quite a few to choose from, but I'm going to go with Marshawn Lloyd. And again, I'm having just a little bit of a deja vu day for me, but today the fans got to watch the House of Victory promotional video up on the big board, and then we see Marshawn Lloyd mention Reggie Bush, and then we see Marshawn Lloyd make a run like Reggie Bush, where he's cutting across the field and making guys miss and avoid tackling. And it's like, wow, karma. It stuck out to me. There was a lot of nice plays, but for me, that was today's play of the game. And you took Solo. He had just a fantastic day across the line.
Greg, your play of the game.
Well, I echo what Marc's saying. I thought Lloyd, for all the publicity and all the hype that we have heard, and when I go back and I've watched his film, both from high school and with South Carolina, that one play told you everything you want to know. And the first thought that ran through my mind is, can you believe having him and Caleb Williams in the same backfield? I mean, and they both come from the Washington, D.C. area. They both played in rival high schools in a big game. They got to be thrilled being in the same backfield together. And that's not to take anything away from Austin Jones, but man, if you say he can do that in one play, you saw it all, spinning, cutting, everything. Wow, he's going to be hard to keep off the starting lineup, after about 2 or 3 games. I mean, what's he going to do when he gets 13, 14 carries? It's going to be really amazing to watch it.
I'm gonna as I always do, I'm going to come up with like 7 of these, but both of Covington's interceptions, right? The first one taking that ball away from Dorian Singer, that's a big time play, and ultimately both interceptions probably swing the game, right? I mean, if that first one is a touchdown, the offense wins the game. If he doesn't come up with the second one and the offense ends up with a touchdown, then the offense wins that too. Not that winning the spring game is end all be all here, but again, 2 key big time plays from Covington there. The Amarian Peterson hurdle in the open field, I think, is something where you see that size and then he does that and you go, okay, hold on a second. I think we need to give attention to Mason Cobb. Had a play where he runs with Taj Washington across a big chunk of the field all the way to the sideline and knocks a ball down at the sideline there. That is something that I'm sure USC fans love seeing from an inside linebacker, the ability to do that. My play of the game is the very first one. Caleb Williams dropping back and finding Brendan Rice on that throw. I mean, again, like Greg said, once you saw that, you just go, okay, we're back. That's it. And that's kind of what Jonah Monheim said when they finished that first drive, 3 plays, touchdown. He said his reaction was, we're back, baby, let's go. And so that, to me, seeing Caleb Williams come out and for all the stuff off the field, for all of the promotions he does and all the Caleb Cares stuff and all of you talk about NIL and deals he signs, and is this an off-field distraction? What does this do to the locker room? He just comes out and does that. He comes out and does that like it's absolutely nothing. And again, you want to take advantage of seeing him as much as possible at the Coliseum. And so for him to come out and do that, I mean, first play of the game, that kind of tells you everything you need to know about where he keeps himself in terms of his headspace and just readiness and constantly being able to live up to the moment. And so for me, that was just striking for him to come do that. Let's go expectation met on this and what you thought maybe you'd see come in, and that's how it played out. Greg, we'll go to you. Your expectation met here.
Well, I will say this. I had a lot of hope, a lot of anticipation and expectation, and it reached that limit. It was what I wanted it to be. The people I wanted to see basically starred. I don't know what more you could possibly want. I will say this, and probably should save it to the end, but just briefly, this team's really going to be good. I mean, it's really going to be good. And that defense where we're all talking about, they just got to be decent. They just got to be effective. I think they're going to be effective. They might be more than effective. Well, we can talk about this later, but the idea that the people that I wanted to see, and I think the people here, we had 25,213 that they wanted to see. They saw what they expected. Caleb Williams. Okay. We expected that. But all the others that showed up that we had heard about, they all made wow plays at different points. And just what you said about Monheim going, all right, let's go. This team is going to be on a mission. And I got to tell you this, I am so excited about, I'd made my reservations for Notre Dame and so on and so forth. I think SC is going to go into that game undefeated. I know I'm looking way ahead, but boy, if Notre Dame can beat Ohio State at Notre Dame, just looking at this team right now in the spring, boy, that is going to be some collision. But I digress. Sorry.
All right, Mark. Greg's in October. Let's come on back here to mid-April, and your expectation met from this one.
A raised level of play at the linebacker, and we saw that today. We hear about it. We talk about it when we get to see at practice. Specifically, Tackett Curtis. That young man plays with Brian Cushing intentions. I want to use the V word with violent intentions, but he plays, I think it was Mason Cobb, he described it, he plays like a missile, and he just plays through everything. There was one play out there where I think he threw a forearm shiver and missed, and it's a good thing that he missed, because he probably would have knocked the offensive player out. So expectation met. USC has a budding star at linebacker.
Yeah, so for mine, it's always turnovers with the defense, right? Like you expect the defense to come out and turn the ball over. But for me, I'm going to go this. Those 2 freshman running backs. You hear about them all the time. And the way Lincoln Riley said, when Quinton Joyner steps on the field to practice, he makes a play. Whenever he is out there, he is making plays. And so for him to rip off a long run and score a touchdown, and then Omarion Peterson again with the hurdle and the little kind of shiftiness for a guy that big, those are, at this point, they look like two big time guys down the road. I don't know how much USC needs them this year, but this is one of those events where I don't know how much you see in the spring game. Yeah, we're definitely going to see all this fall, but it just gives you kind of a taste of individual guys and maybe some position groups and things like that. Those two freshmen, and I don't care if it's against the first team, second team, third team, walk-ons, whatever it is, they showed enough, I think, for everyone to be big time believers in those two running backs moving forward. There's a lot of talent in that pair there. The other side of this coin, the surprise, your surprise of the day, Greg. I'm going to start with you here on your surprise from this one.
Well, we kind of touched on it. My surprise was Tuipulotu. This guy has had such a difficult road to go, peak to climb. And to see him finally healthy, but in a position they really need, and to see how he plays out there, you know what? It is stunning what he can do. And I'm really happy for the guy. I'm happy for the defense, because you talk about guys that make a difference in a big championship run. He's going to be one of those guys. And knock on wood, he can stay healthy. But he really surprised me how effective he was physically. I mean, he was a man among men out there.
Mark, you're surprised.
I think my surprise was, and it's a pleasant surprise, but how well the defense actually performed. Lincoln talked about in their first scrimmage how the defense was able to hold the offense off the scoreboard for 6 or 7 consecutive drives. We saw a little bit of that today. And we've mentioned this. I think Greg mentioned this. Seeing Mason Cobb run horizontally with Taj Washington across the field, that's good, because Taj is fast, and you don't anticipate anybody's middle linebacker, especially someone Cobb's size, to be able to stay with him step for step to the sideline. So that's a good sign. That's a good surprise. But on the flip side, once you take Caleb Williams out of the offense, there is a gap. And I'm not putting that on Miller Moss. I'm saying there's a gap because there's going to be so much change on offense this year, on the offensive line, running backs, etc.
Yeah, I think my surprise is I think overall, right, this wasn't watching the 85 Bears defense or Georgia's national championship defense, but I don't think anyone's coming away from this going, oh my gosh, we're doomed on defense. Like there were some steps forward. And I think the surprise from that is that Anthony Lucas's name didn't come up a whole lot. I think maybe there was a thought that, look, if USC is going to be good at all defensively, he's got to have 80% of the tackles and 4 turnovers and 9 sacks a game. And I think being able to have guys jump up all around him, and you don't have to have these massive games from newcomers. I think the pieces are starting to get put together where the unit looks pretty good. Was sort of a surprise for me. The downside surprise, I'll go offensively. Dorian Singer had a couple chances, I think, to really announce himself. There was one, I thought, he had a kind of a sprawling one-handed attempt in the end zone that, again, I think if you throw that ball to him 10 times, he probably catches it 6 or 7 times. But had a drop. He got his touchdown taken away with the Covington wrestling interception. He did end up with a nice catch along the sideline there. But again, a guy where my expectation that I guess wasn't met was I thought he would make a play or two where everyone was leaving going, hey, that kid's a nice addition to this offense. I still think, again, lights come on, game's on. He's going to make some big time plays this year, but a chance to kind of announce himself in front of this crowd here today. And I don't know if he's a guy who people are leaving, talking about the way I thought they might have. speaking of leaving, talking about it, we're going to our fifth thing now, and that's the biggest takeaway from this. Mark, I'm going to start with you. Your biggest takeaway from this one as USC kind of pulls the curtains down on spring ball 2023.
2023 has the potential to be a really special season if they can put everything together. You know what you're getting with Caleb Williams. I think we got a really good taste of what you're going to get with the running backs. You know the wide receivers are going to show up. We saw signs on defense that takeaways are still going to be there. That it looks like that's carrying over, but you can now really sense an upgrade in the players, in the physicality, and outside of the fans maybe not feeling that and showing up. Remember last year we were told there was 33,000 out there. Today they gave us the number of 25,000. To me, the USC fans, and I hate to end it on a negative, but you have limited opportunities this year to watch Caleb Williams. You had a free one today. He was being presented his Heisman Trophy. And again, LA fans just decided to show that they don't care that much. And that's my takeaway.
Greg, your takeaway from this one.
No, on that high note, I get where Mark's coming from. I really do. I predicted on Inside the Trojans Huddle to be 25,000 people here. And I never know when it's announced whether that's really the number, but that's what I thought that they would announce. And when you sit up in the press box, sometimes maybe you don't get the intensity of the crowd that you maybe hear when you're on the field. But my takeaway was, the defense has improved. The talent is upgraded. No question about it. But, Caleb Williams can distort what's going on. So when he has that first drive, it's like, is there a defense out there? But he's going to do that to everybody, unless there's a incredible amount of turnovers in one game. The question is we know the defense looked better, but who are they playing against? They're playing against a second string quarterback in Miller Moss, a true freshman quarterback in Malachi Nelson, who I think Mark mentioned a couple of times, don't throw that ball before it was actually, in the vicinity of, why did he throw that? So, the truth of the matter is as long as Caleb Williams can stay healthy, he probably won't get many of those turnovers to the other team. Question about this defense is, are they good enough to play against some of the best quarterbacks in the country in the Pac-12? We can't even sit there and say you're exaggerating. That's the truth. They've got 4 or 5 of the best quarterbacks in the nation. So if they can do that, my takeaway is this. Bottom line, this is a top 10 team, right? The question is it going to be good enough to be a top 5 team? And we may not know for the first 6 games. It may be that back end 6 games when it's just like murderer's row in Pac-12 play plus Notre Dame. Then we'll know for sure. But as far as the spring game, there's a lot to build on it. I'm a lot more confident now than I was leading into it. And that for me, who probably errs on the glass is half empty, that's a good sign.
You usually don't even allow there to be a glass.
Well,
so my takeaway isn't so much about even this fall, but looking kind of long-term, this freshman class of early enrollees is so good. I mean, it is phenomenal. Christian Pierce had an interception. We talked about the 2 running backs. I don't know how long we've been talking. I don't think we've said Zachariah Branch's name once, and he had a couple plays here today. I mean, we talked about Tackett Curtis. Elijah Page is out there, working at left tackle with the second team. Sam Green was involved in a sack and is kind of all over the field when he's out there. It is this freshman class. Mekhi Lemon didn't suit up today. Malachi Crawford, a cornerback, didn't suit up today. I think with Malachi Nelson, who's been, trying to come back from that offseason shoulder thing, he got a nice serving, I think, this spring of this is what this next step up is. This is what college is. These are the balls that you can't throw anymore. And there were a couple of those today. But boy, if he's your 8th out of 10 true freshman early enrollees, you're pretty good, because Malachi Nelson is a phenomenal quarterback and will do just fine in college. So I think that is something that we learned this whole spring and definitely showed up in this spring game, that when you're talking about last year's roster and previous year's roster, when you had those holes, those freshmen weren't coming in and able to kind of play right away, and certainly not at the number of positions that I think these guys are going to give you pretty quick depth. And then you look at this fall as guys who can chip in here and there, but then beyond and beyond, this is a really good class of freshmen. And I think the difference for me in terms of what does this exact roster look like this fall, transfer portal open today. There's going to be guys coming into USC. So what we think, this is the starting defense. These were the first 11 out there on defense. These are the first 11 out there on offense. There's somebody else who suited up in some other uniform color this spring who's coming in, and probably a few somebodies coming in to make a big impact. At this point last year, I think Erik Gentry was visiting USC for its spring game. There was no talk, I think, at this point of Jordan Addison being a potential addition. I mean, the guys you talk about coming in during the summer, Jacoby Covington was not here for the spring. So that there's still a lot that can change in terms of makeup and perception of this roster as we get into the fall. But I think both of you hit it. You're leaving spring, I think, with the absolute knowledge that this roster, this team, there's a better feeling from the coaches, from head coach Lincoln Riley, from the players in terms of confidence of what they can do this fall. So overall, a positive spring. I know everybody leaves spring thinking, hey, we feel pretty good about ourselves, but hey, USC should be able to do that. And they're one of the programs that's absolutely going to say that. So that's it for us, signing off from 5 things from the spring game. For Marc Kulkin, for Greg Katz, this is Erik McKinney. Thanks for watching WeAreSC.